Yes, yes. We were at a very interesting point.
Yeah. So while I was commanding 66, I found that we had a number of exercises in the division, and the corps commander's inspection also took place in Victoria Cross, Bhagat, and we all passed with flying colors. One of the things that when my general officer commanding the division, this chap called Major General Harkesh Galot, did his annual inspection, 3 days again, he came early in the morning at about 6 o'clock to see what we were doing, because we were coming for 3 days, he's going to exercise the unit. So we were all on physical training parade for an hour. I was there, and my 3 squadrons were doing, I mean, there's a people doing log exercises. There's a huge log, and 4 or 5 people are moving it up and down and doing heavy logs. The people with shells, the shells are about 40, about 35 kg in weight, lifting the shells and running with them and all that. And another squadron in battle physical, dressed in battle fatigues with their packs and their water bottles full and running to carry out. So he asked me, he said, what is this going on? I said, this is trained soldiers' physical training. He said, but I have not seen this in my division. You have 9 battalions. Okay. I've checked my 9 battalions. Nobody does this. So what are you up to? So I sent my adjutant back to the unit to get the training pamphlet of the Indian Army for physical training. I said, what your battalion are doing is recruit training, where you do simple physical exercise, jumping up and down and clapping your hands and all that. I said, trained soldiers have to be trained like this, because it's a very tough training. He said, I've never seen this before. I said, in that case, your division will be unfit for war because you're not training their men to become physically tough. He said, well then, Colonel, I will send all my 9 battalion commanders to your unit to attend the physical training classes. Please teach them. So I became responsible to teach all his 9 battalions how to do physical training every week. Because so many people in this army do not read the instructions that are laid down in the army, and they carry on doing whatever they please, which is not good for the training of the men. He also did certain exercises to our unit, alarm system to get a squadron out for field, moving to the forward borders areas and how to pack up. And we did all that because we had been training on that. Then in the EME, people came and checked all our tanks, etc. We have top-class maintenance in our regiment because our men had been very well trained to how to maintain a tank. And I dare say that they picked up very well. There's one more thing that I must tell you that I did in 66 Armored Regiment. Because as I said, there was some problem in the regiment when the command changed between Narendra and myself. Some people agitated during the final darbar of Narendra when he was here to say that they have not been given the chance of promotion. So I looked at the way the regiment had been organized by Narendra. He meant well because he's from Hodson's Horse, where every squadron has a different class. So he organized the regiment as 1 squadron of Ahir, 1 squadron of Maratha, and the 3rd squadron were 2 troops, half was Ahir and half was Maratha. See, now the trouble here is that the Marathas are very fine soldiers, and they are very sensitive. You see that in the politics also. They're very sensitive. They have been very, very good soldiers. They've taken on Mughal armies, they've taken on the British armies in that time, and they had a great leader in Shivaji. But they're very sensitive. And he's got land and he's not badly off. So if you don't promote him, he won't say anything. But he just say, I want to resign, and he'll go back home and forget about being a soldier and look after his land. But he doesn't pass examinations. He doesn't change his nationality. So in the military, unless you pass all your promotion examinations, can't be promoted. Now the Ahir, meanwhile, the Ahir is a class who are the Yadavs, for instance. They mostly belong to Eastern UP. And Eastern UP was a part of India which did the revolt of 1857 against the British, when the Bengal army revolted in 1857, which the British called the Great Indian Mutiny, and we call the First War of Independence. Now, whatever the reasons for that revolt, the fact is that the revolt came not from Bengal, but from eastern UP and Bihar and what is now Jharkhand. These are the soldiers who were part of the Bengal army. Many of them were high caste, Brahmins and so on. Many of them were from the fields where, tilling the land, and they make very good soldiers. They're top class soldiers. So because they had done the 1857 UP, this area of eastern UP and Bihar and Jharkhand were not developed properly by the British while they were in India to punish these people for having revolt. So therefore, poverty is maximum. Take canals, for instance. Punjab, which was always loyal soldiers, had a huge canal system. So that everybody got water in his fields and could do well in his home. As far as eastern UP is concerned, there's the Ganga there, there's the Jamuna there, there's the Son River there, but no canal system. So waters were not allowed to be put into the fields by people, so they struggled to make a living. And they were not given any jobs by the British. This is the way the British punished eastern UP, Bihar, and Orissa for the so-called Great Indian Mutiny. Now, Ahirs belong to that place. Now, because they belong to that place, they are very keen to do better. They're the slightly lower caste cousins of the Jat. For instance, a Jat girl would not like to marry a Ahir man. So a Ahir girl would be quite happy to marry a Jat because that's the way they are. The reason is because they're around Eastern Union, UP, and they're more poverty stricken.
Right.
They're not very well off. So, yeah, it's very key. They pass all their examinations and all that. Now, if you keep a separate squadron for Marathas and all, then the vacancies for NCOs and senior NCOs and JCOs are going up begging to the Maratha squadrons because they're not passing their exam. And the Heels who are very keen, passing all their exams, they are marking time to be promoted, but there's no vacancy in their squadron because they're Heels.
Right.
So they agitated by tracking. Now I understood this. So after Narendra had gone, I spoke to the director Ahmad Kaur, who was my ex-commanding officer of 16 Cavalry, the Shamsher Singh Puri, very fine chap. And I spoke to him. I said, I want another squadron of any other Ahmad Kaur clan to come into my regiment so that we even this out. Because today we've got only artillery personnel in our regiment. They don't understand quite as to how an Ahmad Kaur regiment has to be well knit. So they've got these little internal problems. I want an Ahmad Kaur squadron worth of people come in so that everybody gets mixed up. And then I'll feel more happy about it. So just at that time, as luck would have it, the South Indian classes were considered a shortfall in the Armored Corps. And 16 Cavalry, my old regiment, Light Cavalry was the only South Indian class regiment available in the Armored Corps at that time. So 16 Cavalry, who was then commanded by a very good friend of mine called Krishnamurti, was asked to give one squadron worth of people to 66 armored. So he was in Ambala, I was in Jalandhar. So I rang up Krishnamurti, we were old friends, he was senior to me by a few years. He's done the second course in the Indian Military Academy, I am from the fifth course. So I said, Krish, I am coming to the regiment to select my squadron. He said, okay, come along. So I went there. He had a whole list of people ready to come to my regiment. I said, look, none of this, because you will select all the bad hats to send them out, like the artillery did earlier. I am not going to do any of this. He said, then what do you want to do? I said, I'll select the senior JCO. And then he let me select the man. All right. So I selected a chap called Risaldar. Risaldar is one of the ranks of the JCOs.
Okay.
His name was Panika. He had been an instructor in gunnery with me So when I was a captain in an armored corps center in school as a gunnery instructor, he was working with me as my JCO. He was a Naib Subadar, Naib Subadar at that time. One tip JCO. And he is very good. He belonged to South India. He belonged to 16 cabinet. So I said, I want Panika. So I said, you call Panika to the office. So Panika came to the office. It's Krishnamurti sitting in the CO's chair and I'm sitting on the side. Panika walks in. Krishnamurti talks to him and says, Panika, yes, Colonel Sharma knows you very well from Ahmednagar. He wants you to join his regiment, 66. What do you say? So he said, sir, to the CEO, whatever you order, I will do. Krishnamurti asked him, do you have any opinion on the subject? He said, no, sir, I have no opinion. I'm a soldier. You give me the orders, I will do accordingly. Krishnamurti said, but I don't want to part with you because you're one of my best Jesus. As you please, sir. So I said, Krishnamurti, you lay off, let me talk to you. So I said, Anika, within 1 year, I should make you Risaldar Major of the regiment. Because I knew my Risaldar Major, who was a man very fine of Jeshu he come from the artillery, but he was a Maratha. He just Tukaram Surve was his name. I said, he's going to retire next year. And if you come, you'll be the senior major. I'll make you the Risaldar Major. So ask Krishnamurti whether he can make you Risaldar Major in Risaldar Major, the top rank. Risaldar Major in 60 cavalries. Krishnamurti said, no, there are 3 people senior to you. How can I make you Risaldar Major? Panika, your decision is clear, isn't it? He said, yes, sir. because Panika, I then, with his help, selected the whole squadron and he made sure that none of the slightly weaker people were selected. And I got Tamilians and Kerala people and people from Andhra Pradesh and whatever South India. I got a very good lot into 66 Armored Regiment, and then we mixed all the people together. All the squadrons met equitably, and that created a sense of well-being and settlement, because now anybody could work for the vacancies and get his vacancy in case he's passed his exam. If somebody didn't get a vacancy, then too bad, he wasn't sick. So with the result, the regiment became very effective. I must tell you that the commanding officers who came after me did as well. And in fact, when the 71 war took place, I had been posted out. I had gone to Staff College as an instructor. And the man commanding unit was initially a nephew of General J. N. Chaudhary, called Sanjay Chaudhary. I didn't think he was too fit to command the regiment, but then General J. N. Chaudhary retired the chief, and he must have told the Armored Corps Directorate that, look, get my nephew the cavalry. So he came there just after the 65 war. And after a couple of years as a squadron commander, they wanted to make him the CO and make sure posted everybody else out, including me, so that he could become the commanding officer of 16 cavalry. So he was commanded for a while, but then 71 war came, and he got himself posted to France as the military attaché just about 2 months before the war. So he disappeared to France because he had to study the language, and he went to France. He disappeared, and one of our squadron commanders called, known as Chima, Junior Chima, we called him because there were 2 or 3 Chimas in the army. And he commanded the regiment during the war and did reasonably well during the war. I was in staff. So as far as my experience in 66 Armored Regiment was, that it was certainly a pleasure to command that unit. I was very stern. At the same time, very kind-hearted to those who did well, but I was quite nasty to those who did not do. I'll give you one example. There was a man, he was a two-striker, which we call a lance dafada. In the infantry, is called a knight. And we found through the Risaldar Major and others that a lot of literature was being passed around to the man, which is more of a communist and anti-establishment type of literature. Being passed around in the barracks of the men. So we traced it, and we suspected that this dance stuff was a chap organizing. But he's a very clever man and a very efficient engineer. So though his squadron commander and I were trying to catch him out on something, we couldn't. And one day they went on an exercise, and his he was commanding a tank, and his crew and he were cleaning the tank. Now, when you clean the tank, it's not correct. But meantime, you take kerosene mixed with water, it's a swab, and you clean the inside of the turret and all that because that lifts the dirt very fast.
Okay.
Kerosene cleans very fast.
Okay.
But kerosene is inflammable.
Yes.
And the orders are you cannot use it inside a tank, right? And then while they were cleaning this tank, the tank was spick and span, no doubt. But somebody must have been smoking or something, and a butt or an ash or something fell inside, and the whole tank burnt up.
Oh no.
Since he was commanding that tank, he took him out, and he had to come in front of me, and I wanted to de-stripe his two stripes. I wanted to reduce him to the rank. So I said, "This is your punishment." You know, he's a very keen on the rank. To them, it's a disgrace to lose your rank. So they held on to his two stripes. He said, "Sir, you can't do this to me." I said, "All right, march him out." I told him, "Now let him come in front of me. Private." Came in front. I'm just telling you how a commanding officer has to use his techniques even with his men who to be punished. He came and I said, "Sit down." There was only him and me. I said, "You're a bullshit type. You've been passing around literature, and you know, and we know that we've been trying to catch you out for some time. And now your tank got burnt, and so therefore it got you. And now we want to discharge you, and you're feeling upset that we are going to discharge you." And by holding on to your stripes with your hand, it doesn't mean we can't discharge you because that's an order. That's published, and your pay, etc., will go down. And that's a bit of a setback for you, with your home and your family, that you have been removed from the rank of last stuff. You don't like it. He said, "Yes, you're right. So I don't like it." I said, "No, I have a suggestion for you. You are too clever to be in the military."
Okay.
You know, a chap who's too clever and doing also the jiggery pokery inside, he's not a good soldier because instead of doing his duty, he's doing all sorts of things on the side to create a problem somewhere. I said, "You're a scheming sort of a chap." So, yes, maybe that's your quality, but then the army is not the place for you. He said, "What am I supposed to do?" I said, "What you do is, here is a piece of paper, you sign this. It says that I want to resign from the army. I'll get you out of the army in 48 hours. And you go to people in Jalandhar at that time. Go to Ambala where the Congress headquarters is, join the Congress party. Because you're like a politician, because all the scheming is done by politicians, not by military people." He tells me, he said, "You think that will work for me?" I said, "Yes, because scheming and doing things on the quiet and doing underhand stuff is a politician's job, it's not a military man's job." He said, "Sir, if you recommend that, I'll do that."
Okay.
So, you sign this paper. So he signed the paper, and within 2 days, I sent the information to Ahmad for record that the chap is wanting to resign and he's not very acceptable in the unit, so we must permit him to resign. So they discharged him from the army. About 5 months later, I was to leave my command, and I had to go to the staff college as an instructor. Before I left, I was going to be hosted and roasted out by my Jamaat. So the idea was that in the morning maintenance parade, I would go around all the squadrons. They were doing maintenance of tanks, and they would all come and shake my hand and say goodbye. They were all lined up. And then I'd come round to the office and I'd say goodbye to all the officers and clerks and staff. You see? And I'd get to my jeep and go. And normally a jeep is pulled out with two ropes after the regimental gate. They have the procedures to say goodbye to a commanding officer. So this chap belonged to one of my squadrons, B squadron in fact. And when I was in the garages, B squadron were all lined up in their tanks. I went shaking hands with every man, and the last man was this guy who had left the regiment for I said, "Hey, how are you here?" Well, the advice you have given me, nobody has ever given me such good advice.
Huh.
Had you got it, put it on my head. He said, sir, you have made my prayer. He has joined the Congress party, have already become a Neta.
Oh God.
Everyone has to be fit into his correct job to be part of the States. I had removed the strike, but be part of the States. It just show you what happens in a military unit. Anyway, Nivedita, now the next phase of my life was the staff college. Now this is an important phase. I have a lot of views on the army. Even as a student, I had a lot of views. And I disagreed with a lot of things. So I now start telling you, when I went to staff college, it was about March 1968. I commanded from I think 67 to 68 end. So about March 69, I landed up in small staff college. The course starts in April. Just I would have gone there 3 or 4 months earlier, but I extended my stay because my new commanding officer had to be briefed by me. So I refused to go for a few months, much to the disgust of the Army headquarters and military secretary, because they kept on warning me that staff college is a very good job, and if you don't go in time, we'll have to select somebody else. You do what you like, but I have to look after this regiment. So when the new CO comes and I'll brief him, then only I'll go. So I went about 3 months late. With the result, I was the junior most director staff when I went to staff. The junior direction staff for all exercises is a man, if there's a sand model exercise or something, he's supposed to be the pointer. He points things out. He's not supposed to open his mouth for 5 or 6 months. After he's done a year, he gets the dagger. Staff college guy has the dagger, which I showed you once. Then he's a proper instructor. So, of course, to take a syndicate, you have about 9 or 10 younger officers doing the staff college course, and you're the instructor, and you direct the discussions. Discussions are tutorials to start with inside the classroom for a few months. We even teach English. Then we slowly go on to exercises, which are troops. Troops mean tactical exercises without troops. So you go to the mountains and everywhere, paint a picture and say, now how would you defend this, or how would you attack this, and all that sort of thing. So we're doing all that. Now, in staff college, to exercise the students, I told you something about this when I was a student. When I had some argument with some DS about how an armored regiment should attack at night.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now there's a story that is picked up. Now the story was made by a British officer called Major General Lenton. Now let me tell you about Major General Lenton. As a lieutenant colonel, he went as a commando group behind the Japanese lines in World War II as a special commando force to act behind Japanese lines, organized by a Brigadier Wingate. Brigadier Claude Wingate was the man who created an organization called the Chindits. And what they did was that an airplane, they were all in gliders, and an aeroplane would take them over the over the Burmese jungle toward the Irrawaddy River, well behind the enemy lines. Find an open space, and the airplane used to cut off. And these gliders used to come without any engine and land. And each glider had about 30 men on board. Many of them crashed, many of them died. But then after landing, they had to get together, the Chindits. So there were commando groups functioning behind enemy lines to blow up bridges and to create mayhem and to create alarm and despondency behind the Japanese lines. Claude Wingate was quite a hero. He became a brigadier and was much talked of, and there's much history written about. Lenton was his number 2. He was lieutenant colonel. So after the war, 1945, when India became independent in 1947 and all the British officers were going, this chap Lenton had already become a brigadier. And Jawaharlal Nehru wanted the staff college to be started. The staff college was in Quetta, which is gone to Pakistan. See? So now we have to start a new staff college, and they decided to do it in Wellington in South India, which is a hill region. And they wanted a British officer to get the place going.
Okay.
So they asked Lord Wingate whether he would like to continue in the Indian Army and start the staff college. Now he's a very good officer, and they made him a major general. They promoted him rank, so he's very happy. And he started the staff college there. Now, in his exercises for the staff college students, he said he made a scheme of things. The scheme of things is that, like the Japanese were attacking, they captured, let us say, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and they captured Burma, they captured up to Manipur. Now, from staff college, all this was built up, and then eventually it ended by an inter-service exercise that means Army, Navy, and Air Force students to work out how uh, military force could be taken across the Bay of Bengal to land and attack the Andaman and Nicobar Islands and recapture them from the Japanese. Now, Japanese never captured them fully during the war. But he said that instead captured, how would you? Because these plans had already been made by the Southeast Asia Command during World War II. This is under Admiral Mountbatten before he became the Viceroy of India. So he was the overall Supreme Commander of the Allied forces in Southeast Asia. And they made these plans based from Trincomalee in Colombo, in Ceylon, in Sri Lanka. Where this flotilla was ready to go across the Bay of Bengal and capture areas of Andaman and Nicobar Islands which had been presumably captured by the Japanese. Okay. So those are the exercises we were doing. Now, when I became a director in staff, I raised an objection to this. So now I was a junior director in staff, that nobody wanted to hear me talk. But we had what is known as the directing staff discussion every day in the morning, where all the directing staff who were going to take the various syndicates, if they had any problems about the subject that was being taught that day, they would raise it. We discuss it among ourselves as to what is the best answer and how to convey the right direction for students to discuss. At that time, the senior directing staff, who was the adjutant of the IMA when I was a cadet, his name was, he was a full colonel. The directors were all lieutenant colonels. He was a full colonel. He was in charge of the training, directing staff and of the students. So he's the chief instructor. His name was Malhotra. We used to call him Smoky Malhotra. I don't know why we called him Smoky, because he was S.N. Malhotra. He retired as an army commander eventually. He was a tall, stepping man from the guards. And he used to be on a white horse as the adjutant of the IMA when we passed out as cadets. I passed out, as you know, in 1950. And he was adjutant. So he knew me from there. He told me, he says, what is this bakwas you are doing? I said, if something's wrong, why am I not allowed to speak? He said, all right, speak. What do you want to say? I said, we are not going to attack Andaman and Nicobar Islands. This is because British have gone. Andaman and Nicobar Islands belongs to India. So why should we attack it? It's just sensible. Now, if you want an exercise where sea comes in, a sea movement comes in, because the Navy has to be exercised also. Air Force comes in and Army comes in, then let's divide India into two parts to make a land border. Because we have a land border with Pakistan and we have a land border with China. Therefore, we must have a land border to protect. And they can still get onto the sea either from the eastern coast or the western coast and come down, let us say, we are on the Tamil Nadu side. And the enemy is on the north of Andhra Pradesh, right? They're in the North India. And they're attacking South India. Then they can come by land, they can come by sea on the eastern side, or they can come on by sea on the western side. So let's work that out. So after a lot of discussion, the directing staff accepted that yes, this may be a good idea. And Sam Malikshaw had been the commandant, but he had gone away when I was a student. Now we had a person called R.K. Ranjit Singh from the Armored Corps. Now, R.K. Ranjit Singh had commanded the Armored Division, and he was here at the Staff College boss, Commandant Staff College. And the case was taken to him. He said, well, try it out, tell the Sharma to write the exercise out. So I had to write the exercise out and create the exercise, where the border is, and what is the exercise, what is the enemy doing, and therefore, what is the type of training we are doing. So we did that. And the point here is, which I wanted to convey, that the British, as I told you once earlier, and the Americans are maritime powers. They've got the sea all around.
Right.
They have to fight their battles either in Europe or Asia or wherever to prevent people crossing the sea and reaching their land.
Right.
That means when things get hot, they withdraw very quickly from there, like they did in Dunkirk during World War II.
Yes.
I said in our case, since our villages are on the border, Indian Army cannot withdraw. Because if you withdraw, then those villages are overrun by the enemy. They lose their land, they lose their livelihood, and the enemy captures our territory. If that happens, we have to counterattack and recapture that territory because it's our territory. So our land borders are very sacrosanct. We cannot allow the enemy cross the land border. There's a northern border, we've got the Himalayas, and we'll be dealing with China, so let's deal with that. And the western border, we've got Pakistan, yes, we can deal with them. We've done the 65 war, and if and when the war comes next time, we can deal with them. But we have to plan for that, and we have to prepare for that. And you cannot withdraw. So now in the operations of war, there are 4 operations of war as the British taught. There's the advance operation. How does an army move forward over a period of land to contact the enemy? Then there is the attack operation, because when you contact the enemy, you attack them. Then after you've captured a piece of land or whatever it is, then you defend that. So there's a defense operation of war. And if the enemy attacks you back and things get hot for you, then you withdraw. So I said, no withdrawal. That was the second point I said. The first point I made in staff college was that you have to have a land battle exercise for all Army, Navy, Air Force students to be picking up to, including the intelligence reports. And let's have North India fighting in South India. So you have seas also, and air also, and land also. Second point, I said that we do not want to withdraw. Withdrawal operation of war must be revoked. Now, this caused a lot of discussion because it has to go to Army headquarters eventually for their approval. And, that took some time. In fact, I became a Major General before it was accepted. And I was only a Lieutenant Colonel at that time. I said that there cannot be withdrawal from your borders if you have to protect your citizens. So these are some of the points I made. I was a directing staff for about a year and a half. And there you have some foreign officers also. And all of us were made in charge of one foreign officer also. So I had a very keen British officer. They brought their wives also. They were allowed to travel over India to see the rest of India also. And I must say that gave a nice difference of opinion in each tactical discussion that we had, because foreign armies have their own method of doing. So we had people from Indonesia, and we had people from Britain. We had an officer from America, and like that, we had about 12 or 15 foreign officers who were doing in some countries sent 2. Canada, for instance, sent 2 officers. Britain sent 2 officers. And we used to also send officers to those countries. We have this entrance examination for staff college, and if you get a competitive vacancy, that means there are so many vacancies in staff college. You may pass the exam, but if you aren't within the top so-and-so, but let us say the number of students you can take is 75. If you come number 76, you can't go to staff college. So competitive vacancy that you come within the 75. Now, those who come within the first 5 or 6, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are sent abroad. They are given staff college to England or to Australia or to Canada or to America or wherever. Nowadays, there's a staff college also in Bangladesh, for instance. I suggested have one in Pakistan also, but nobody accepted that. After all, when military officers go and do a course of instruction in other countries, there's a relationship that starts between those officers and our officers, who are the future commanders of the respective military. Now, that is very important. For instance, officers who come to India for staff college from America became the military attaché of the American embassy. And similarly, officers who come from Britain who did well here were made the British military advisor in the British High Commission in India. So with that, they've done a year's course and stuff, but they know who all are here, you see, and they get to know people. Similarly, with the National Defense College, which is at the brigadier level, those brigadiers also come. So whether you're a lieutenant colonel, major, or brigadier, if you have worked with this country, then if you get posted into that country, you've got a lot of friends in the army, and your life becomes easy. So that is the advantage of foreign officers coming to us and us going there. As far as all these foreign officers are concerned, since they haven't seen India, we have a special occasion where they are sent to Punjab and to Himachal and to Assam and all that, so that they see a bit of India. And they generally come back very thrilled with Punjab, because Punjab is a very happy state. And at the end of the course of 1 year, they all put up a show, and you find the foreign officers make a song or something about Punjab, because they want to do the Gidda or the various dances that you hear in Punjab with a loud noise. And they're very taken up, because they're very happy people in Punjab. All right. So this is the stuff called.